Senator Ted Cruz, how are you, my friend?
Mark, I am fantastic. It is always good to be with you.
It's a great honor, always. I want you to hear one of the great patriots, just quickly, who testified in the House today, Dr. Karen Kenney, San Fernando Valley, California Patriots founder. Just listen to this real fast. Go ahead, Mr. Producer.
The voice of the Republic resides in our citizens, not in the tongue of government. More must grasp that self-evident truth. This dialogue is about the jackboot of tyranny upon the field of our founding documents. To whisper the letters IRS strikes a shrill note on Main Street, USA. But when this behemoth tramples upon America's grassroots, few hear the snapping sounds. My personal favorite was question number 33, which in relation to protests asked for a listing of our, quote, committed violations of local ordinances, breaches of public order, or arrests, then requested details on how we conduct or promote illegal activities. I think the IRS needs to fix its labeling machine. We're the San Fernando Valley Patriots, not Occupy Oakland.
Just beautiful. Senator Cruz, these are citizens out there, grassroots people who love their country, who love their freedom and independence, staring down committee members in the House of Representatives. Have you ever heard such articulate people in your life?
It's fantastic, and it's reminiscent of our framers. I mean, we are a nation founded by citizens that dared stand up to tyranny. Yeah. And what I think is perhaps most troubling about this IRS scandal is it is the forces of government using the machinery of the federal government to try to stomp down individual citizens that are standing up for our Constitution. And I am so glad that she testified and that millions of Americans are standing up against the abuse of the federal government to hold down the citizens.
Now, Senator Cruz, among other things, you're talking about abolishing the Internal Revenue Service, I mean, for all intents and purposes, and promoting some form of a flat tax. I mean, if not now, when?
That's exactly right. And part of it is, we're all familiar with Lord Acton's famous axiom, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. If we have this omnipotent IRS that has the authority to intrude into every aspect of our lives, has the authority to ask the questions that she just recounted, has the authority, as we've learned in this IRS scandal, to ask book groups, what books are you reading? Give me a book report. Has the authority to ask of a pro-life group, detail the contents of your prayers. That is the manifestation of too much power in Washington, because there is nothing in the Constitution that gives the federal government the authority to ask any American what is the content of our prayers, and the fact that they think they can is because the size and power of Washington is too strong. I think the best and simplest solution is abolish the IRS, padlock it, and move to a simple flat tax that every American can fill out on a single postcard.
Absolutely. And if not now, when? And you're exactly right. Now, the Supreme Court, 5-4 decision with Justice Antonin Scalia writing a blistering dissent, has now authorized law enforcement to collect invasive techniques. I mean, DNA from citizens in certain circumstances. I object completely to this, and I understand you do as well.
You and I, unsurprisingly, see eye to eye on this and a great many other constitutional questions. The issue here is whether the government can forcibly take someone's DNA when he or she has been arrested, but you haven't been tried, you haven't been convicted of anything, you've simply been arrested. And the Supreme Court, by a vote of 5-4, said, yes, you can take the DNA, and then federal law enforcement can run that DNA against their national databases and see if they can implicate you in any other crime. And as Justice Scalia powerfully noted in dissent, this sets up the stage for eventually a national DNA database of all of our DNA, and information and government having control of information about us, about who we are, and DNA as personal information as can exist, I think invites abuse. And you don't have to look any further than this IRS scandal to realize how dangerous it is for us to accede to the government having this power to collect this information about the citizens.
And, you know, I'm tired of us opening all these doors. I don't like these domestic drones unless, of course, law enforcement has a specific reason for using them. But, you know, the EPA checking out ranches and and farms. I personally don't like all these local governments with all these damn cameras on the stoplights and so forth. I mean, it's like they put them up at 3 in the morning. Next thing you know, there's more of those. Then we have the IRS database on the financial information, and much more than that. Now we're going to have Obamacare with a database, and I mean, where's all this leading?
You know, when Orwell wrote about 1984, the image of an all-powerful central government that monitored the citizens at all time, that had an eye in the sky or an eye on the street videotaping all of us, that had information about all of us, personal data, that was viewed as science fiction. And I think we should all be dismayed by the speed with which the big government crowd, and you and I both know the big government crowd isn't just the left. It also includes some on the right. And an excess of power in government is always, always, always a fundamental threat to liberty. And that, if the Constitution is about nothing else, it is about, as Thomas Jefferson put it, serving as chains to bind the mischief of government, to restrict government power so that it performs its essential functions and it protects the autonomy and fundamental rights of every American.
I was kind of stunned by this 5-4 decision. I'll be honest with you, that Scalia was the only originalist to, in my view, take the correct position on this. It just kind of amazed me. Now, you're the guy that argued before the Supreme Court several times. Did it stun you, too?
It was certainly a surprising lineup, and you had Scalia and actually 3 of the more liberal justices, Justice Ginsburg, Justice Kagan, Justice Sotomayor, joining Justice Scalia. And I think, listen, there is an instinct among folks to support law and order, and in this case, this guy was a bad guy. I mean, he was a criminal, he was a rapist, he was a bad guy, and you know, you and I have both spent a lot of years working in law enforcement, working to put away bad guys. But one of the points Justice Scalia makes very powerfully in his dissent is the existing law. There's no serious dispute that once someone is convicted of a felony, it is permissible to take their DNA and to test them for, to test it against the database if you've actually been convicted of a felony. So for the people who are guilty, for the people like this individual, this decision will make no difference, because if they're going to be convicted anyway, it won't impact them. The only people who are going to be hurt by this decision are the people who are wrongfully accused, the people who are innocent of the crime they're arrested for, or for whom there is not enough evidence to convict them, but who somehow get ensnared in some other conduct that the government doesn't have probable cause to get a warrant. And what Justice Scalia powerfully writes in his dissent is our Bill of Rights, and in particular the Fourth Amendment prohibition on unreasonable searches and seizures, was designed to prevent the British practice of general warrants, of a warrant saying, go after Mark Levin because he seems like a sketchy character and dig everything you can into him to figure out if he's committed a crime. And the framers didn't want to do that. They wanted to say, listen, if you have probable cause, if you have evidence of a crime, then you can go and investigate that crime, but you can't just have government target an individual because it invites abuse.
Exactly. Beautifully said. Now, one more issue while I have you. This immigration bill is about 1,000 pages long, and I must tell you that when Jefferson warned Madison that one of the defects he saw in the Constitution was this idea that a law can be passed and it can be changed and it can be long and it can be passed quickly before the people know what's in it. We're in a pattern now, whether it's Obamacare or Dodd-Frank, and now this latest monstrosity. Now, people might say, well, it's been on the table a long time. What's been on the table a long time? They've changed it many times. There may be other changes to it if the Gang of Eight permit it. But the point is the people really don't have any idea what's taking place with this law, and I dare say people go on TV saying, I support comprehensive immigration reform and I'm going to support it, and they don't even know what the final bill is going to look like. How do we legislate like this?
Well, it has been the game in Washington a long time. You know, we had for several weeks a markup in the Judiciary Committee hearing, and every Senate Democrat voted party line lockstep to reject every single significant substantive amendment that would have actually tried to fix this mess, that would have actually tried to put teeth into the border security portions of the bill. This bill is all but utterly toothless when it comes to border security. It essentially says, trust Janet Napolitano to exercise her subjective amorphous discretion to determine whether or not the border is secure. I mean, it is a recipe for not solving the problem. And yet the Senate Democrats rejected amendment after amendment after amendment to actually secure the border. They rejected amendment after amendment after amendment to improve and increase legal immigration. And they rejected amendment after amendment to provide that those here illegally should not be eligible for citizenship or should not be eligible for means-tested welfare payments. And what they said in response to all of this was essentially, look, we cut a deal. We cut a deal before this hearing started. It was a closed-door deal with the union bosses and the interest groups, and this is our deal. And we're not changing our deal, and we have the votes.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think that's a sad statement about the way Washington works, but I also think this is a bill that right now doesn't fix the problem. I think most Americans are interested in fixing our broken immigration system if we can actually secure the border, take real steps to increase border security, to stop illegal immigration, to stop the problem, to stop the incentives for those to come here illegally, and at the same time improve legal immigration so that we can continue to welcome and celebrate those who follow the rules and come here seeking the American dream. This bill doesn't do that right now, and at least so far the Senate Democrats have shown little to no interest in any changes that would actually fix the problem and do something that would strengthen our economy instead of making the problem worse.
I want to ask you a question. I only have about 30 seconds. Don't feel like you have to jump in on this, but, you know, Chris Christie gets a lot of applause and cheerleading inside the Beltway for being blunt, for taking certain positions and so forth. You, I'm speaking for myself, are far more articulate. You're far more based on our founding principles and representative of the conservative viewpoint. And yet, when you speak out, you notice you are attacked by various media outlets, pseudo-conservatives, blog sites, phony columnists for this paper or that. And Christie's applauded. He can say almost whatever he wants to say. Do you think that, if you accept my premise, do you think that's due to the fact that he is less of a sort of Jeffersonian liberal, a classical conservative than you are?
Well, I don't know what the story is with him, but I certainly appreciate the kind sentiments you've expressed. And let me say that the fact that the mainstream media and the New York Times is so hysterical about what I'm doing, to me, frankly, suggests that maybe we're doing something right. Because I'll tell you, I ain't here working for the New York Times. I'm working every day for 26 million Texans and for conservatives and Americans all across this country that want to get back to our Constitution and want to get back to the free market system that has made us the greatest nation in the history of the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great, and we support you, and we want to thank you. Senator Ted Cruz, appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
All right, God bless you.